and sent it back.
There are still some fries here.
Yes, there are. So I appreciate everybody coming. Obviously, we're here to say goodbye to a long friend of the region, Elizabeth. You've been great. Even though I only met you last month, it's been super great working with you.
You already forgot the other time, sir?
Yeah, that's my fault, not yours, right?
Did she tell me she was over at troop support?
She was someplace else.
That was before I was there.
I think she might have been on the golf team, actually. No, you've been super great. You are definitely, I know George talked about it a little bit, but you've been a go-to of everybody in the RSOC, even outside of troop support equities. I would say all equities within the theater, and that's been great to have and have that knowledge base in the RSOC. You've been the rock. And setting this up, one of the conversations I had with some of the troop support folks is you're the one L&O for us from the MSCs that actually sits and is embedded with us. And it really changes the amount of support that we get, and it really brings you in as part of the family. So we definitely appreciate that. Earlier, we were talking about everybody's favorite place or place they've been stationed, and Noel mentioned that this place kind of was right for both of you. And I'll further that and say you were right for us to be in region. And I couldn't think of another way or another person that could have did what you did for us. So really appreciate that. Brian, anything?
Yes, oh, for sure. So Colonel Steinfeld's kicked it off. You help us out in the RSOC in addition to the normal troop support. And don't be too scared. I mean, when Elizabeth came, I mean, she didn't know it like troop support like she knows now.
Actually, be very scared.
She really does know it, and knows it well that when Elizabeth's not there, we don't get the quick answers. Folks wait for Elizabeth to come back, actually, sometimes.
That's true.
And yes. And so some of the things folks might not know is, I think, other than Heidi, Elizabeth has been in RSOC the longest. Folks talk about me being here long, but you were there when I got there. And not only that, troop support has always been so giving to Elizabeth's decrement, maybe, of she was going to temporarily be the 21st TSCLNO.
Yeah, that's right.
It was going to be a couple months.
How long was it? We got to get JSAM for that. Holy shit.
I don't know if you ever got your foot out there, but for sure it was probably that year or closer to the 18 months. So appreciate that. And that was so, they were worried that if I came over to the RSOC, I would be burdened with the 21st. So it was, hey, please, ask troop support. Elizabeth did it. And it started with the COVID, but I mean, you stayed and really held that down, plus the troop support. So that being said, we know you're coming back, or I hope you're still coming back, as we said. And I believe they'll be very successful because as we went through and looked at those positions, it's very troop support centric. So you're already set up for success for East Africa. So thanks for all your support. Hopefully you'll help fill in. If you're half as good as Elizabeth is, only half, you'll do fine because she's been great. So thank you, Elizabeth.
So on behalf of the region, we've got this small token to send you home with.
I don't know if I can get out there. Yeah, you can.
You want to? So you want to come up? So on behalf of the region, we've got your time captured from August 2020 to July 2023. You certainly embody being an agile logistician, and we really appreciate all the support that you've given to the region and the warfighter. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Of course I am.
Wait, now look over here.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Thanks. So Noel wanted a license plate. Perfect, so we got a license plate. So for those of you who don't know, when I got here, even though I've worked at DLA before, I had never worked at troop support. And because of COVID or whatever reason, I got here a little bit after the person before me left. So I had no turnover. It was COVID, and so we were working, but it was just a whole different environment. I think at one point we couldn't go more than 30 miles from our home, something to that effect. Anytime you had it, well, I had a 2-week quarantine, first of all, when I got here. Could not leave my hotel room. My intent, Noelle was moving out of the house. We rented the house, and the intent was she was going to be over here with me. That 9 months later still had not happened. And I was into my 3rd or 4th quarantine. So things were not going so well. And I felt pretty useless because I didn't know what I was doing, and it was a long process to learn because of COVID. So not many people were in the office. Everybody in the RSOC welcomed me, and at that time, it wasn't how it was set up now. We were all sitting out in the middle of everything. And from Heidi to Brad to Melissa, I mean, everybody was just very welcoming. And eventually, I started to learn. Joanne helped me a ton with troop support stuff. Colonel Yates, obviously, your predecessor, sir, was amazing. She held me to long hours and high standards, but it benefited me in the end. And she always knew the questions to ask, and so I tried to answer the questions before she asked them. So it made me work harder to ask the questions and get the answers. But the long story of it is that I wouldn't know what I know if it hadn't been for everybody else. So there's never a time that I went to anybody, whether in this room or anybody else within the region or within the MSCs, and asked a question that they didn't help me and answer it. And then that made me better able to give the quick answers the next time somebody asked me. And so, again, my knowledge is because of other people's knowledge. Joanne spent a long day with me, taught me how to use the trains, took me to Heidelberg, gave me an expert to work. She apologized the whole time because she hadn't had enough research time to tell me everything. And it was awesome, of course. But from personal stuff to work stuff, I met up with Heidi a few times for some hikes that were longer days than I anticipated, but they were awesome.
My driving was fine.
And her driving we made it back. I think we had to put our feet out a couple times in her little Yaris or whatever it was to get going on the road. But Brian coming from 21st, I know when I first went over there, I think he probably handled a lot of stuff that I didn't even know because people were still going to him. Because I handled the troop support stuff, I didn't know the other stuff. And so it just continues to go. And then when Mr. Bruce got here, I worked for him for 3 years at headquarters. And as we talked earlier, every morning at 5 o'clock, he would come in and he would say good morning. I would tell him if there was anything he needed to know from the night. Otherwise, he would go work out. And then when we left of the night, I would be back into work. We'd do our little turnover. He'd say, okay, I can go home now. You got it. And so, again, the people here have been awesome. I appreciate this from region. I got it. I worked for troop support, but we all work together. And again, everybody here has supported me and helped me become who I am today from who I was when I arrived 3 years ago. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And last but not least, my wonderful wife. So it has been a little tough. 3 years unaccompanied when that was not the plan. She has dealt with me being on the phone going, just deal with it. I don't have time to worry about it. I'm working long hours. You just got to deal with it. Call my parents or whatever you need. But she's always there. She's always the rock. She might get mad at me sometimes when I'm a little army-ish. But she understands more than I could have ever imagined when we started this Army journey 14 years ago. And so, she lets me vent from the moment she answers the phone when I get in the car on the way home or just talk about stuff and talk through it and just always comes back with support and positivity and, hey, where's our next adventure going to be? So none of this would be possible without her. And I'm glad she can be here for this because she never gets to do any Army stuff with me. So.
Me too.